Hey there, and welcome to EduTechGuys. I am David Henderson, Technology Coordinator for Southwest Arkansas Education Cooperative.
And I'm Jeff Madlock, the technology coordinator for Hope Public Schools.
And welcome to today's episode. We got all kinds of cool stuff to talk to you about in regarding technology in education. We will have Superintendent of Hope Public Schools in Hope, Arkansas, Bobby Hart. He'll be here a little bit later in the show. But we're going to start things off with an address that was given to the AASCD conference earlier today, and that is the Arkansas Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development. And it was given by Commissioner Key in regards to state assessments for the upcoming 15-16 school year. Basically, what he told that group was that there would definitely be an assessment for the next school year, which really is not a surprise. I mean, you have to do something. You can't do nothing. Well, you could do nothing, but then there are plenty of monies that go along with that you wouldn't receive. So we are not going to do nothing. The state is going to have some kind of assessment. I think what was probably if there was anything kind of shocking about what he said, at least for me, it was that evidently he said that he would take his recommendation to the state school board on July 9th. So, assuming that the other players who are part of this picture, meaning the state board, meaning the state finance committee, who's responsible for signing contracts, allocating money, that type of thing, assuming that everybody plays nice until July 9th, it looks like that would be the soonest that we would hear anything in terms of where the state is going for the assessments. Now, earlier in the week, the governor sent a letter to the commissioner about not renewing Park, basically flat out saying we are not going to go with Park. So the presumption at this point is that it will most likely be the ACT Aspire battery of tests. We don't know that. That's absolute just speculation. And
Wasn't that was the one that was suggested by
yes,
the governor's council that was looking into this whole thing.
exactly right. So yeah, so you have the governor's council saying we think you should go with ACT Aspire. You have the governor sending a letter to the head of ADE saying don't do Park. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, I don't think, to kind of start to add up two and two and come up with Pearson-owned Aspire.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think it really matters to either of us what they do.
No, no.
Because we did online here, and that's the majority of schools. The large percentage of schools in the state of Arkansas are doing online testing.
Right.
But the only thing that will really change will be, the interface. The uploading of students, registering of students, that whole kind of thing. So I don't think it'll be a big deal. I think that most of the schools this year learned everything they needed to learn about one-to-one and bandwidth and the whole logistics of giving online testing.
Absolutely.
And so I think the panic is just the panic. Like, oh gosh, it's something new. But
Well, and I can definitely understand. I think there's definitely the panic. Now there's something else we have to do, but I think that's also a frustration. Um, you know, we spent the better part of the last year and a half going over Park, learning Park, understanding the whole test nav environment, and then spent a bulk of the fall, this past fall, really even up after Christmas break into early spring, training the test administrators, making sure all the tech was in place, all that kind of stuff, and now granted, it's not going to necessarily be a complete do-over, but it's going to be a do-over.
yeah, it's going to be a do.
So I think there's going to be a lot of frustration.
Right.
I'm sure panic is part of that, but
2 weeks ago we had on what name completely left me.
Hope Allen.
Hope Allen, and she She answered some questions that I think were generalistic, meaning that they learned some stuff no matter what we're using, whether
Right.
we're using Pearson Park or we're using ACT and Aspire or whatever.
Absolutely.
That they know where the faults are and we can fix those pretty easily.
Exactly. And I think that's going to hold true for, I guess we can't say all the districts, but most of the districts in the state. That's the big takeaway. Everybody learned, or hopefully most districts anyway, learned something along the way. And it could very well be infrastructure related. It could have been, like you said, one-to-one implementation that went along with that, or a myriad of other issues that may have cropped up. Those get addressed that wouldn't necessarily have been addressed. Now we're that much further down the road with whatever the state wants to do.
Right. Yeah, I think that's going to be a good thing. So, hey, taking a look at tech news, you're listening to radio.edutechguys.com. We come to you every Wednesday, 3 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time during the summer. We're coming to you today live from Hope Public Schools Administration Building in Hope, Arkansas. We bounce between here and the Southwest Arkansas Educational Cooperative. Taking a look at tech news, first off, Windows 10. A lot of guys are moving to Windows 10. Everybody's kind of looking at it because that's what you're going to get on a new PC, most likely. Windows is pushing the snot out of it. Windows 8, what happened to 9? But anyway, it doesn't matter. So
I know the answer to that. You know the answer to that?
Tell us.
Do you want to know the answer
I don't
to
want
that?
to know the answer
Okay,
to that.
go ahead.
So Windows 10, what's the big deal with Windows 10?
Well,
Because everything's going to get it for free.
here's the deal with Windows 10. You can go download the current beta version, and I know they don't call it that, but it's the beta version of Windows 10, and you can install that on a brand new machine, right? You don't have to have any existing license to install the beta. Well, evidently, sometime late last week, Friday, Saturday, somewhere in there, Microsoft released information that made it sound like anybody who was running the beta would get full-blown Windows 10 RT for free. Well, then they came back by Sunday/Monday and said, whoa, that's not exactly what we meant. What they meant was that you would continue, if you're in the beta test program, or you want to get into the beta test program, you will be allowed to use Windows 10 in beta, basically for as long as there's a Windows 10 in beta. The kicker is that they push out the beta updates automatically to you. So, you might have a perfectly running, stable Windows 10 beta, and then they scrap the whole thing.
Well, there's the problem with schools. It's not good to even look into that because,
Right.
first of all, it's going to cost us. Second of all, if you do the beta, then policies and things that'll just get wiped out every time it updates.
Yes.
It's useless even doing that.
Exactly.
Other big news this week is Google now has the unsend function.
Yeah,
inside Google.
that's always been one of those lab add-ins that's not officially supported.
Right.
Well,
Now it's official.
Yeah.
The only problem with it is what it does. You turn it on in your email settings. You go to your email settings. You can turn on unsend feature, and it delays your email by 30 seconds. So, if you send that email out berating your boss, then you have 30 seconds to go in and unsend it before it hits their email. I wonder if it works kind of like Exchange used to also. As long as it stays unopened, it can still be retrieved. I don't know if that works. That used to be something with Exchange.
Guess we'll have to play with that, but that's kind of a double-edged sword. I mean, okay, yeah, maybe it's nice that you can recall that, but it's only a 30-second window. I mean, I don't know about most folks, but it usually takes me a little longer than 30 seconds to realize I should not have sent that.
I usually
I'm a slow learner.
I know it before I say it. That's how
You know it while you're typing it. I should not be doing this.
Other things, I saw a great article on the top 3 learning management platforms that are out there that are being used around the country. The number 1 is Edmodo, which Edmodo has been around a long time.
It has, yeah.
Number 2 is Google Classroom, and number 3 is Moodle, and those are pretty popular.
Well, I tell you what, and if those are ranked in order of popularity, distribution, I don't know what the rank is there, but regardless, the fact that Google Classroom is 2 on the list, given how long Moodle has been around,
yeah, it passed
and
already.
the fact that, for all we know, it's creeping up and take over Edmodo.
Well, Google Classroom didn't go live until last September.
Yeah.
So it's not even a year old.
Yeah.
So it's already past Moodle.
And again, that was one of those things. Sorry to interrupt, but Google Classroom was another one of those that was actually a series of add-in pieces and parts that were developed by
Google Lab.
Google Labs, and then of course it caught on like wildfire, and then they made it official.
Well, interestingly enough, I don't think people know the power of Google Classroom, that it's not just for classroom use, but for meetings, for any group or organization that meets. I mean, it could be used by a church, it could be used by a civic organization, by a school.
Sure, absolutely.
Here in Hope, we also use it for our principals meetings. That's our administrative meetings.
Yeah.
One last thing, there's a great website. It'll be up on the website, our website, after it's all over, and we'll tweet it out. Me and that Twitter stuff. We'll tweet it out here in just a second. It's a great little website I thought you might like. 7 EdTech instruments to develop your students' writing skills. Big deal. That's something you can start pushing your kids to do this summer, because inevitably a kid's going to get bored this summer, and they're going to read, and they're going to need to write. Or either or. And so
Sure,
now would be a good
absolutely.
time to do it. It covers 7 different things. A couple that it covers are Microsoft OneNote class notebooks. That's cross-platform. iOS runs on all those platforms. Right to Learn, which a lot of schools use. Right to Learn is a really neat site. And Weebly for Education. That's just 3 that it does discuss. And we've used Weebly for Education. And I think you've
Well,
used that workshop.
and I've taught several workshops showing schools how to use Weebly for Education, and in the Southwest Co-op area here in Southwest Arkansas, we actually have at least one of our schools they're using Weebly as their main school website, and they like it a lot. They love how easy it is to use. They can restrict down to the page level. So they've enjoyed it. In fact, they've been using Weebly to host their web page for several years now, and through a couple of tech coordinators at the district. So it's worked out really well for them.
That's cool. Might help if I make sure my mic's on.
Are you on?
Yeah. Hey, you're listening to radio.edutechguys.com. We're live right now, coming from Hope Public Schools in Hope, Arkansas. You can catch us there, or you can catch us at Mixlr, mixlr.com/edutechguys. Follow us on Twitter at EduTechGuys, EduTechGuys. You can follow David at DavidInark, David and Ark, and myself, Jeff Madlock, at J Madlock. Hey, we're really excited today. My boss is here, and we've heard from him before. He's been on a previous show when we were doing the Corwin Learning Institute, and it's good to have Bobby Hart here today. And I'll move his mic over so he can hop in here.
Cool.
I'll let you introduce yourself to everybody that's listening.
Oh, wow. I'm Bobby Hart. I'm superintendent of Hope Public Schools in Hope, Arkansas. Been in the district for 3 years now, and we have done some really neat things. A lot of it's a credit to our tech staff, which Jeff heads up, and the work that the co-op has done with us in David's work. So we're thrilled about being a part of this radio cast with Mixlr, and it's really fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. We've had great support from you and Phoebe Bailey, director at the co-op, and this is a little experiment that we hope we can make grow, and that we can get more teachers and more students involved in. So I got you on the air today. I'm going to put you on the hot seat.
Well, I want to first say the main reason that I'm as supportive as I am is with this and other things that you all have done. It's a great way for us to model what it is we'd like to see our teachers do more of. And really, you guys are living proof that anybody can do this.
Exactly.
Gee, thank you.
Yeah, that's a resounding vote of confidence. It doesn't take a whole lot of technical skills, which you all both have, but just a few tools and the willingness to get in and roll your sleeves up and just try. And I checked your numbers a few days ago, and you guys had. At some point in time, you've had up to 600 listeners. Not all at one time, but that speaks to the power of the internet and the power of the technology you're using. That two guys who have a passion for educational technology and tech in general can generate that level of interest in a relatively short amount of time with absolutely no advertising, no beefing up. Your listenership is just through word of mouth and through digital connections. So my hat's off to you guys. I think you're doing something really innovative and really neat, and using some tools that are really accessible to all of our staff.
Well, thanks.
So
Appreciate
now
that.
I'll sit in
That's
the hot
awesome.
seat.
Yeah. Now that you've buttered us up.
So now that you've been really nice to us, so here's the hard questions. Do you like school? No, I'm just kidding. So so the first thing you and I discussed this, just so you know, I'm not really good. We wouldn't get you on the show and just throw hard stuff at you. But charter schools, that's a big one. It's hit hard. It's hit Arkansas. It's been here for a while. Sure. And we've talked about its relevance. It's good and it's bad. What it can do for public education and what it could harm public education.
Well,
what do you think about
I think, first of all, everybody needs to understand exactly what a charter school was designed to do. A charter schools, my opinion and the research that I've done and what education I have in regard to charters, they were designed with the idea of being laboratories to find out what best practices are out there that are really going to help drive student success. There have been some private entities in the last several years that have realized that there may or may not, and I say there may or may not, there are some dollars to be made in the charter school business. My hat's off to anybody that wants to try to help students succeed, and if they make a dollar in the meantime, that's all well and good. One of the things that I'm really excited about is the idea of a public charter, where current or existing school districts can apply for those waivers that are declared charter status, and would have an opportunity to implement some of those innovations and some of those best practices that we think could probably increase student achievement.
Yeah, that's, it's interesting you talk about it being like a lab, like a startup. I mean, it's really kind of what it is. It's an entrepreneurial look for us to find the best way to provide the best, widget for our kids.
Right, and I think you have to go into it with the idea that what is best for a certain block of kids, because there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all approach to education. Kids in different parts of the country, kids in different parts of our state, kids from different economic backgrounds, kids with different experiences, the innovations that are necessary there, some of those are going to be different depending on the locations. Some charters require uniforms. Some charters ask for extended school days. There's a lot of things there that you could put into your charter that would make it unique. What I would hope that if, and we're exploring currently those opportunities for conversion charters in our district. What I would hope is that we would look for what fits our kids best, and what is going to not guarantee, because there are no guarantees, but what would promote learning in our school system with our students at a higher rate. And those are the things we're currently looking at. What waivers, what best practices do we need to implement as a district? And if charter status is one of those things that would help give us the flexibility to implement some of those things, then hey, maybe we'll consider applying.
Don't you think those, I like to use the word incubator, that's a big thing in startups, is to build a workspace, a learning space, so that you're going to incubate this idea. For us, I could see us taking those incubators with the concept of STEAM and STEM, fine arts, and really finding out what's great for our community. I mean, is that where you see it going for us at Hope Arkansas?
And what I'd like to see as a district leader, I'm currently in the midst of writing a dissertation that I hope someday will be finished, and it's based around project-based learning, and and so in looking at the research and looking at the literature, John Dewey's approach to what schools should look like, or what schools could be. He makes mention of the fact that you have to spur that child's interest, or find what interests that child, and then educate them around those modes. So I think, we here at Hope have done some work with career academies in our high school. They're in that beginning phase. This is our first year to complete those, and we hope to continue to grow our academies to where, right now we have 3 academies: business, banking, and law, health and human services, and STEM. And we'd hope to expand those and give kids a more specific career or specific vocational based background in all of those. So I think if you put a hook into a kid, no matter what that hook is, we need to explore the fine arts as one of our academies, because there are a lot of kids that are interested in not just music and dance, but sculpture, painting, whatever. And we need to give those kids the opportunity to express themselves in that way, but also to base their learning through those endeavors.
So, taking that line of thought, all right, this is where my brain goes, and if I'm way off base, by all means, you can say no. But all right, so you already have the banking courses academy that you have. You're looking at fine arts. I don't know. One of the things that pops into my head is if you have students who are interested in, let's say they're interested in making music. It could be whatever. They would be a rock band. Okay, so you have some students that they want to make the music, and then you have other students who they're interested in, say, the fashion side of that, right? And other students who are interested in the graphic design. Let's make, what's the logo for this band going to be? What's this? And then you have the whole other back end, back office marketing type stuff. And how does booking bands work? How does all that stuff go together so that, boom, here's your next super band, and that's an entire group project. You're talking about project-based learning. Yeah. I mean, that's a whole project that covers all kinds of different subject areas. That to me, I guess that's kind of where I'm going with all this. I guess that's sort of one of the things that I see in terms of what you could do maybe with charters and or academies.
Sure, the kids that graduate from high school today or last month, they're going to be. The research says that they'll have at minimum 12 different careers, not just 12 different jobs, but 12 different careers.
Sure.
Which means 12 different fields that they'll be working in. You need to be able to. We need to be able to provide them with as many glimpses of what the real world looks like as we can, because that's the only way they're going to find their niche. Right. Is they may go into it with the idea that I want to be involved in music, but then through the course of the school year and through the course of their studies, they realize the backside of music, the marketing, like you mentioned, the financial side may be a piece they want to get into, or the fashion side of it. I don't think we can ever. I think that's what's really wrong with us today in today's world of education, is that we've tried to make it a one size fits all, and that doesn't apply. And that's why, like when we talk about charters, the world today is full of choices, and even kids in rural South Arkansas, because of the technology and because they're exposed to so much, they and their families have some choices, and that's good. And what we've got to do is change our model, the model of 7 periods a day, the bell rings, and the brick and mortar. We've got to step back and say, okay, that model's going to have to change, because if it doesn't change, Darwin was right. It's going to fail if we don't. It's not the strongest will survive. It's the one that's the most adaptable is going to survive. We've got to adapt to what it is society and the future of economics of the country dictate. We've got to adapt and change our model to meet the needs of we keep saying the 21st century, but guys, we're a decade plus into the 21st century.
That's right.
That logo was great when we first thought of it 15 years ago. Well, education for the 21st century. Now we're let's start focusing on the second decade or the third decade, I guess it would be, of the 21st century. Because you think about it, like this, and I don't mean to cut you off, but kids who enter kindergarten in 2015, in 2027
they're going to, did I do the math right? Yeah. In 2027, they're going to graduate from high school.
Right.
Think about that. 2027, what is the world going to look like? Because you
Right.
just go back 12 years from today,
Yeah.
and what did the world look like? What did education look like?
Yeah, there was no iPhone.
There weren't. That's right.
Yeah.
There was no a lot of the stuff.
A lot of the, yeah, I was just going to say, a lot of the stuff that we're
the
doing
stuff
now.
that we're doing in education didn't even exist 12 years ago.
Right.
So we've got to try to adapt to what we think is going to happen in the future. That's scary because there are no definites, but we see the trends. We see the trends that are developing, and there's a lot of research out there that says eventually we could get to a point where the brick and mortar school is no longer the model. It may be a piece of the model, but brick and mortar, I don't think it will ever go away.
Right.
But it's going to have to change.
Sure.
It's going to that model is going to have to. I think at a certain level, from age 3 to about 13, we need those kids in schools. But after that age 12, 13, once you've got solid reading and arithmetic skills,
Sure,
basic skills in place that they know how to read and write and read for content purposes, education is going to change. It has to, because the world's changing. Used to, you would never hear of a kid going to college at age 13. It's
Right.
becoming more and more commonplace now.
We were just talking
I was just
about
going to say,
that.
that's a perfect.
Well, you're
this is
segueing into
good.
a question that you don't know about, but we were going to ask you, and I'm going to go ahead and throw it in now because one of the questions we had written to ask you about is, I wonder why more schools aren't promoting skills-based advancement. See, because that's exactly what
I mean, that
about.
ties exactly with what you were just talking about.
We were
Because
talking
it's-
about Taylor Wilson. Sorry to interrupt you. Taylor Wilson, the boy genius, the nuclear physics kid. He graduated high school at 13 or 14 and went out to California and is already splitting the atom and doing all that kind of stuff. And we have some of those kids that do that kind of thing. But I think we're seeing. I happen to know that some kids in our summer school system came in and finished the entire summer school in a week, and were like, "Hey, I can get right through this stuff." What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the reason that it hasn't happened at a faster rate is because it's so far out of the norm, and the fear of what's it going to look like if we let everybody do that. That's scary to the norm. We started 2 years ago. I believe it was 2 years ago. We started a mastery-based, standards-based grading system at our K-4 primary school. That was a tough sled for a number of reasons. Parents still expect to see an ABCD grade. That took a little while to get used to that rubric of 1, 2, 3, 4.
Sure.
And they're still not all there yet, but we're going into year 3 next year. So over time, you're still going to have that initial set of parents, every year that, wait a minute, my kid got a 3, and I think he should be an 8. Does that translate to a B? What does that mean?
Right.
So it's such a culture shift from what the public is used to in schooling, that skills-based or mastery-based achievement or grading is it's a tough sled. It's a tough undertaking, and only the only folks that are really undertaking it right now are K4, K5 buildings. A lot of places. Because once a kid starts getting into secondary, and especially into high school, you start looking at GPA to get into college. Right. And so our partners at higher ed have to realize that learning and what it looks like and assessments have to change some at their level, just on the entrance requirements.
Sure.
There are a number of schools, a lot of them prestigious universities, that no longer take ACT scores or SAT scores. You simply apply, write your essay, they evaluate, and they look at your at what skill sets you have coming in.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that makes a lot of sense. But the accountability that Common Core placed out there for us is a great starting spot to say, all right, these are the standards that we expect our kids to be at when they leave grade 12.
Right.
And then higher ed could look at that and say, these are the skills and the areas that we expect our incoming freshmen to be able to know and do when they come in. That's, it's just that's a tough political push. Like it or not, good or bad, education as a whole, whether it's public or private, is still a political football.
Sure.
And,
It's funny.
It's sad, but it's true.
Talking about, there's the one hinge, is getting our friends in the post-secondary world to jump on board with us and getting the community to accept that change.
I had conversation with a local attorney, very respected, very well-educated man, who asked me, his son was in the second or third grade, and said, look, what does a 3 mean? My kid, I don't understand this, and so it's for someone of that background in education to not have a full understanding. You can imagine someone whose parents may have dropped out of high school, or a student whose parents don't have all that education. They fall back to what they know, and they knew A, B, C, or D, and that's I saw a graphic on Twitter the other night about it had 5 or 6 kids listed in a grade book, student A, B, C, D, and E, and each of them had different grades throughout the grading period, but they all came out to a 79 at the end. Mm-hmm. So and the question was, which one learned more, which one learned what?
Right. Yes, and of course there's no way
way to know by
just
the regular grade. So I'm a very big proponent of that, of the mastery-based or standards-based evaluation, but it's a major overhaul in what the norm is in education. And as you know, education is like like a lot of things in society. It's like trying to turn a submarine in a canal. It doesn't happen very fast.
Everything we've bit,
or easily.
The huge bite we've all taken in education, in Hope Public Schools. I mean, we do that at Clinton, and then one-to-one, blended learning. I mean, the speed of change. Yeah, for education, for public education in this country, is so great. I mean, so that I'm segueing into, one-to-one. We've labbed that thing. We've been incubating one-to-one for 3 years, right. And we have successes, and we have.
But there's not one thing that you can call it. You can't call the whole process for us a quantitative success, right. Because number one, our data is fluctuates so much, and there's so many things that have to fall in line in order for that implementation to be truly effective. Number one, the classroom teachers have to want to use the tools.
Exactly.
If they don't have a yearning or see a need for those tools, it's just one more thing added to the teacher's plate. I realize that year 3, right. The light comes on for me. I'm not the fluffiest biscuit in the pan, and it takes me a little while. But it really, if it's not something they see a need for, it's really difficult to get that implemented in the classroom. Secondly, I think making sure you've got the infrastructure there that can support those tools. And when I say support, that's a whole lot of stuff, from not just making sure that kids can log in, but that you've got security measures to protect the device itself, security measures to protect the student. That infrastructure is huge, and we've built that. But we built it while we're in the air, like building an airplane while
all
in the air.
All of this has been just let's add the wings today.
Yeah, let's. Hey, we have a need for extra propulsion. We need and so we've developed that over time, and I think we've got a good system in place, top to bottom, and we're still evolving. And I think that's been the hardest thing for me to accept, is you can't just roll out the device and everybody start utilizing it to its fullest potential.
I think that's happened across the country and around the world with devices.
And it goes back to what I've read, learned, and witnessed, it's not about the device or the tool. It's got to be about the instruction and how it fits into the instruction.
Right.
A good classroom teacher, you can give a good classroom teacher a stick and a rock, and they can go teach Pythagorean theory.
Right. Yes. Yes.
So if you give them a great tool to work with, they're going to start figuring out, okay, they'll do the exploration on their own. That teacher that, I don't want to say mediocre, but that teacher who's been in the profession 10 or 15 years and teaches the way they were taught or teaches to comfort, they're a little reluctant to start using tools like Mixler or a whole variety of products, from an iPad to just a smart board.
And there's the big thing, the giant, overwhelming wave of technology that our teachers are hit with. Yeah. You know, the other thing I think is our kids, you remember the old days when we would fill our little boxes full of everything we needed for the year?
Sure.
And you got those matte pencils, and you never really used those matte pencils, but like twice.
But
and
they
it was
were,
always,
they
but they were
in there, and that's what I'd like to see our teachers realize is we're going to provide you a basic set of tools as a classroom teacher, whether it be a MacBook and Apple TV or whatever. The tool's not as important as the usage and implementing it in your classroom. The device, we could go with Chromebooks, or we could go with the device is not as important as being able to develop lessons and engage students around those lessons. I think we missed the boat because we spend so much time worrying about the device. And we have teachers that for years they've had smart boards in their room, and now then they've got an opportunity to move to Apple TVs, and they're upset, or not upset, but they're reluctant, and really, if I had to do it all over again, I think I would wait for teacher. I don't want to say wait, but I think we would probably wait for a little more teacher push to have those devices.
right.
But I also know that if you wait for the perfect time, you'll never start that diet.
Oh, yeah, no,
You'll
that's
never start that exercise
right.
plan.
Yeah,
You'll never have that
We're
first
danged
child.
if we do,
Right.
we're danged if we
So
don't.
I'm glad we pushed out. We've got those pockets of excellence in our district, just like they're everywhere. I think, and I meant to say this earlier, we get really frustrated. I know I, as an administrator, and Jeff as our tech coordinator, we have constant conversations. I have to remind myself, we're pretty well connected. I as Jeff says, I get on the Twitter all the time, and I'm looking at all these teachers and administrators and folks that are really utilizing their technology, and I'm thinking, man, why doesn't my school look like that? My school does look like that.
Yeah.
My school looks like, just like the school they're teaching in, has one or two or a pocket of excellence
Right.
that is doing that. And until we, as a profession, really accept and embrace the opportunities that are there, I think we'll continue to have those pockets of excellence, and it's going to frustrate our kids because I go to second period and I've got these really engaging lessons, and I've got this teacher that lets me explore and find out, and I'm learning and I'm excited about being there. The bell rings, I go to third hour, and I'm getting a lecture for 45 minutes.
Right.
And not that there's anything wrong with lecture. If you set in a good lecturer's classroom, that's a great way to
Sure.
But that doesn't need to be the driving force behind my instruction always. So, I've learned a lot. I don't have a plan necessarily, a master plan of how to make it happen. I think if districts are going to go to a one-to-one initiative, first thing is make sure your teachers are on board and are ready to accept what the powers that they've got. If they're not ready, you've got to try to make them ready. As best you can, but if they're not ready, it's going to be a slow, hard process.
Well, and do you think some of that getting ready, though, is also from the perspective that some of the hesitation with the various tools is, to me, my thinking is along these lines that, if I give you a hammer, here I've given you a tool, but if I don't show you what to do with that hammer, how to use that hammer, and how to use it effectively, appropriately, then who knows what you're going to do with that hammer, right?
Yeah, but, and what I'm hearing you say, and if I'm misinterpreting, let me know, but I'm hearing you say, better and more front-end loaded PD for teachers on how to implement and how to use. I understand, and if that's what you're intending, but
Yeah, well, partly, or at least, and I have no idea. I'm not an administrator. I'm a tech guy, so I'm not sure how these pieces fit together. But if anything, the freedom, of course, I realize part of this, the teachers themselves have to have the drive, the want to. But even if you give them the tools and they are allowed to play with those tools, for lack of a better description, learn how to use those tools. Now, I'm not saying they have to be the best carpenter in the world to use this hammer, but they have a general understanding, an iPad, a MacBook, they have a general understanding enough to say, okay, I got an idea, but then, of course, the other side of that is they also have to be willing to turn that open to the students and say, you guys know how to do this stuff way more than I do. I've got the content knowledge. I know what I want you to do with this as an end result. How you get there, though, here's all these tools.
Well,
there they
that
are.
requires something that adults are not typically, not just teachers, but adults in general are not typically comfortable doing, and that's releasing control
Right.
of something. A lot of things can happen when you just let control of certain things. I'm not saying lose control of the classroom. I'm saying let go of the control of the learning. Let go of that and let kids go where they want to go, or let them find what they need to find.
Sure.
Let them discover on their own some things. Guide them, direct them, and that's what I'd like to see the role of the teacher develop into. Is I'm not the sage on the stage that has all the answers, and I'm the keeper of the knowledge. I'm the facilitator that's going to help you get to where it is you want to go, or find out more about what it is you want to know. As far as handing a kid a device, and I've never had a child ask me. I was in the classroom for a while and been in central office administration now for 3 or 4 years, and been a building principal. Long story short, I never handed a kid a computer and that child look at me and say, well, I need some professional development on this.
Exactly.
That is very true.
Usually it's,
You're
hey,
right.
I think I can use this.
Right.
And all you got to do is just give them some push in a direction, and then let their imagination take over. Even that most reluctant of learners, when you give them a tool that engages them the way some of our digital technologies can engage them, they're going to find a place to go. All they need is somebody to push them in a direction that is an appropriate and learning direction. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys you're doing this on purpose. So one of the topics we wanted to discuss that was blended learning, and that's it.
I'm Captain Segway.
You are Captain Segway. You make my job easy. I'm between you two. You guys could talk forever, and it's usually me. That's interesting. Anyway, but now I was going to say blended learning. We were talking about it earlier. Blended learning has become what's the word? I want to use the word promiscuous. It's
No, that's not the word.
But it encompasses so many things now, because we have so many avenues to do that. We have Virtual Arkansas, which is not. We were talking. Is that really blended learning? Is it blended learning, or is it not blended learning? To me, it's not. But yeah, it kind of is. There's live instructions, and the kids are still doing stuff online, and you hit it on the head about letting loose of control of the classroom. That's it. That's the key to blended learning. Is that okay? We're going to do this, and then I'm going to let you do this on your own. That's tied into this, and
yeah, I think we have to try to lose the idea that every definition of blended learning needs to be the same.
Oh.
What I call blended
Good.
learning is there's going to be part of our coursework that is done digitally that is going to be done outside of the classroom, and there's going to be part of our coursework where you and I sit down and have some face-to-face interaction.
Yeah.
To me, that's truly blended learning. it doesn't have to all be teacher led. It could be, it could be a conversation. I'm a big proponent of the Socratic method. Let me ask you a question, and let's start pulling out answers and what you know about that from your answers. And I can guide, and we can say, well, let's find out more about that by looking at this website, or let's find out more about that by doing something different. So the definition itself, I don't think we should get so caught up in, we've got blended learning, we've got flipped classrooms, there's, all these vernacular, all these terms that, if somebody says, well, I'm a proponent of blended learning, that immediately is going to turn off that person maybe that says, well, I like to flip my classroom. In essence, they're the same thing to me.
Right.
So, but the idea and the concept of blended learning is going to help us change that model of what school looks like. Mm-hmm. It's no longer, I mean, you look in the real world, look no farther than my office. I'm having to put together a presentation. I'm speaking to a group next month, and I was putting together a Prezi and couldn't get it to embed a TED Talk that I'd found. Mm-hmm. And I found it on TED, and so I, instead of doing it myself, which I probably should have done, I asked my tech guy, and he said, well, let's look it up. And I thought, man, I could have done that myself. Why didn't I? We just Googled embedding TED Talk into a Prezi. That's the way everybody gets information now.
Yeah.
Is, I have an 8-year-old son, and he likes to do touchcast videos of his video games or whatever he's doing. Well, he couldn't get something to work, and he came to me and asked. I said, son, you just need to find out on your own, because I can't tell you how to do it.
Right.
He Googles how to get such and such into a touchcast. Mm-hmm. At 8. So don't tell me that a 15-year-old sitting in a high school classroom has to be told everything to do.
Right.
Let's teach him the concepts. Let's teach that 15-year-old the ideas about World War II or whatever, or gerunds, whatever it is we're studying in English class or social studies or whatever. Give him the basis of what it is and where you want him to get to, and then let's turn him loose and let him go a little bit on his own. Guide him as he needs to be guided. And it all boils down to how efficient and effective and comfortable that teacher is letting go of control.
Right.
And when that teacher is comfortable in that setting, and as administrators, we have to, and I'm talking to principals and superintendents and curriculum coordinators, we've got to understand that we've got to let teachers make mistakes.
Right.
And it's okay to make mistakes. There's nothing wrong with it. It's okay. The kid went to a website that he shouldn't, or something happened and the lesson didn't go as planned. That's fine. What do we learn from it? Let's learn from it and do it differently, do it better the next time.
Yeah, exactly. What changes do you make so that it doesn't happen again, or when it does happen, or you see the, kind of that path sort of unfolding in front of you, how do you, divert that path? How do you change? So I want to take this all the way back around to something we were talking about earlier, in that one of the things that, you had talked about was higher ed, right? So in your experience and in your opinion, when you see teachers, especially teachers who are just now coming into education, right, and they're coming in and even just fresh out of college, they still have some of that, preach and teach, I'm the sage on the stage, because higher ed is still, for the most part, that's how they're modeling the folks that they are teaching coming into education. How much does all of that come into play?
But at the same time, they're trying as hard as they can to get away from it too.
True.
Think about it.
True.
You're looking at some of the largest universities, Phoenix and those. They're completely online. There's a bunch of schools moving that, and maybe that's just a bigger truck to move, because we're dealing with 3,000 kids and 19,000 kids. They're dealing with 30,000, 40,000.
Well, it's that shift in in the norm, though.
And that's it.
Right.
It's so.
You're talking about tenured profs that have been there for 35 years, and they're not. They've got those notes. They're embedded in that chalkboard where they wrote them 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not. Hey, listen, I'm not erasing that chalkboard.
And you get a lot of there are a lot of higher ed folks that get it, and they feel the same way that we feel in K-12. But again, you're moving that needle. In society's eyes, is moving that needle is extremely difficult.
Right.
Because there's so many norms that are out there in regard to what college should look like.
Right.
As I mentioned earlier, I'm finishing a dissertation, and the vast majority of my doctoral work has been done online.
Right.
I don't think that I'm any less informed about educational leadership or than anyone else who's gone through the program.
Sure.
It's just that I got that I was able. It was really, to me, it was more important. I don't want to say important, but it was embedded in me a lot greater because I wasn't just being fed information.
Right.
I had to go out and find information on my
Sure.
own, and I think. But higher ed is it's a tough sled. Just education in general, because everybody's been to school. It's kind of
Right.
like being a little league, kind of like playing little league baseball.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that because you played little league baseball, you should be able to manage the St. Louis Cardinals.
Right.
You know, they have an opinion about it, about
Sure.
their favorite team. Well, same thing applies in the classroom. Most everybody has gone to school,
Right.
so therefore they want to voice their opinion. They want it to look like school was when they were in school.
Right.
So this has been fun.
Hey, I'm sorry, I was tweetering.
Twittering.
Tweeting.
Tweeting, thank you.
I think you're making up. You just make up words.
I like to make up words. So yeah, I was putting that out there. Sorry to keep you so long. I hope that's all right.
No.
This has been great chat, and we'll have you back again for sure.
I hope I haven't bored anybody.
I haven't. I'm going to give a shout out to Harry Dickens. Harry chatted in, and we missed it completely because we were talking, and he said the same thing you did. You know, get out of the way, teachers. Give it to the kids and let them, go crazy. But I want to thank Bobby Hart, Superintendent of Schools of Hope Public Schools, for being here with us today. We're going to take a small break so that we can gather our stuff together and check all of our phones, because I think we've been blowing up while we've been sitting here. We're going to take a 3-minute break, give you a little music out there, and we'll be right back with EduTechGuys. Hey, welcome back to EduTech Guys. This is radio.edutechguys.com. That was Tim Goins and a tune called Faux Pop. Just putting a little music in there. We had catch up real quick and let you know what's going down. So we want to thank Superintendent Bobby Hart, Superintendent of Hope Public Schools, for coming by and chatting with us. We had a nice long chat, discussed a lot of stuff. If you have anything you want to say about that, let us know at at EduTechGuys on Twitter. You can also visit us www.edutechguys.com. At the bottom, you'll find a nice form you can fill out and send us an email and tell us how beautiful we are and how lovely we speak.
You can also use that form if you'd like to appear on the show. If you want to be a guest, we can get you in here in a variety of ways. So if you are of the mindset that we don't necessarily speak as beautifully as Jeff is purporting, and you would like to take over part of the show, by all means, drop us a line. You can also tweet us directly. I am David in Arc, so that is at David in Arc, and Jeff is at J Madlock. Feel free to drop us a line.
Hey, we want to finish up here really quick. Last thing we'll talk about today is tomorrow night is normally ArcEd Chat.
Yeah.
If you're not doing Twitter chats, I highly recommend it. On Twitter right now, if you check out our feed, you'll see a link to a wonderful site that has every educational hashtag that this person has compiled. And it even has ArcEd Chat in there. Also, in that same tweet, you will find a link to the next page that has the schedules of all of this.
Which I would say that is one of the coolest things that I have seen, especially in terms of having essentially one place you can go and find out what the schedule is for particular ed chats that you would like to follow, and all kinds of. It's they are, which ones are state based, for example, Florida Ed Chat, Michigan Ed Chat, which are content based. There's the Math Ed Chat. There's the curriculum one, which I'm not even going to pretend to try to pronounce, but there's one for curriculum. I'm sure there's a bunch for curriculum, but anyway, it's very cool.
Yeah, really cool. And there's a lot of fun. You get in your favorite recliner, grab your favorite beverage, iced tea, Coca-Cola, whatever it is, and grab you a snack or two and sit back in the chair. Highly recommend TweetDeck. If you'll use TweetDeck, you can follow several ongoing Twitter chats at one time, and you'll find a lot out there on the educational Twitter chats. Most states have one that is a Tennessee state chat and the Arkansas state chat and that kind of thing, and then you'll find several. Hundreds and thousands, hundreds. Definitely covering your area, your curriculum area, and any ideas that you might have about education. I promise you'll make a lot of friends. You'll get more Twitter followers. You'll follow more folks, and you'll find a lot more feeds out there. So I tell you what, this show has gone by so quick. It seems like we just sat down and it's done.
This really did. This was great.
So I guess we're going to finish up. So
all right. First of all, I want to give a huge thank you to Southwest Arkansas Education Cooperative here in Hope, Arkansas. That is where I work, and also out to Hope Public Schools, where Jeff works. We couldn't do this if it wasn't for their support in helping us or letting us do this. Definitely want to thank everyone who stopped by today. We appreciate you guys coming in. Drop us a line, by all means. We want to hear, good, bad, ugly. And we'll be here next week. I'll be on vacation, but I hope to join while I'm out in San Antonio. So we'll see how that works. And
I think it'll work out great. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at EduTechGuys. You can catch us at www.edutechguys.com. And anytime you want to on Wednesday at 3 p.m., radio.edutechguys.com. I'm Jeff Madlock.
And I'm David Henderson.
We'll see you in the funny papers.